Hello everyone for the second part of our meeting today, and we are truly excited to have with us Professor Jacob Goldenberg. You have met Jacob in our first meeting where he was chatting with Professor Yoram Uzon, but now you will hear a little bit of his own work and the connection between a crisis and creativity. Jacob is a professor of marketing at IDC. He's also a visiting professor of marketing at Columbia University. Has published in all the top journals in marketing, psychology, physics, and whatnot. Has been the editor-in-chief of the International Journal of Research in Marketing, and is a great friend. Jacob, please go ahead.
Yeah, truly excited. Yeah, sure. Okay, let's start. I have more slides and information at the time, so I'll try to be fast, and probably most of the material I will not cover, but don't worry, Oded already has the presentation with many details, so you can look at the other material later. I also have a surprise towards the end. I have a guest, and let's start. When Yonat first asked me if I'm interested to talk here about creativity and crisis and Corona, that was the main perception. Like, there is a huge, big threat on humanity and society. The universe is under danger. And as usual, what firms are doing in this case, they just cancel the future. They don't think about new products. They don't think about innovation, mainly because they want to survive, usually under some sort of very gloomy and very blue mood. I want to have to specially thank Adi Bar Yosef, who is here with you too, and also Ilana. They'll help me with collecting many of the cases that you will see here. Thank you very much. Also, I know that most of you didn't take my course about systematic creativity. Nevertheless, I wanted to use some of the terms from there. So what we're going to do, we're going to use the multiplication principle. You will see in a minute what it is, Ayelet. I have 3 devoted students who are now part of a study group about creativity. It's Adi, the same Adi, and also Iftach and Ayelet, and they will be working with you on the chat. So when I'm using a term that is not a common term, but it's from creativity field, then they will explain it to you. Also, you can ask as many questions as you want, and they will answer only those questions that are really relevant to me. They will flag it, and I'll try to reply. Also, we don't have to finish on time. Don't worry, you're not on your own. We will finish on time, but we can continue next week or whatever. We can communicate on any topic that you are interested. When everything started, and we started to teach on Zoom, I don't know if you saw it. That was a hilarious case, and it was went viral on YouTube. It's a professor.
At first I was afraid, I was petrified, kept thinking I could never teach through Canvas all the time. But then I spent so many nights reading the help I've spoke so long, and
we don't have time. You can Google, you can YouTube it. Basically, he explains how he was terrified, but he survived. He learned Zoom, and now students are studying on Zoom. It's nice. It went viral. All the professors used to show it, or at least look at it. But this is a surviving mode. I mean, this guy wanted just to survive the Corona. There is a different approach. MLK said that if you cannot fly, then you should run. If you cannot run, you should walk. If you cannot walk, you should crawl, as long as you keep moving forward. And that is a different perspective. This is a perspective of putting the future as more important than survival. Of course, if you need to crawl, then crawl. But the goal is to fly. What happens right now with the Corona is some business, actually, Corona became a blessing in disguise for them. Social distancing required some sort of communication. So look what happens on Zoom. Look what happens in the streaming. Look what happens in the delivery. So some firms and even some individuals, they actually benefit from the Corona. So it's not only dark. Yes, of course, we lost lives, a lot of lives. We have a serious crisis in the economy, which also connected, as some of you already heard me in the past, it is connected to the number of casualties in this war. But some firms learned either to take advantage of this or they just descended on them. Zoom never dreamt that this would be the situation. Zoom was with 10 million users daily on December, rose up to 300 daily during April. That's a lot. The world will be different from now. Already we can say clearly. We will fly for business less, and we will do more things on Zoom. We will use different ways in order to communicate, and maybe for some firms, this will be a growth. Now, again, those slides will be shared with you. There's a lot of information. They were prepared by Adi, so you will have a lot of information if you're interested in that. Streaming, same case. Netflix rose up in 47%. That's under a crisis that they have because of the fight they have with the studios. So that was, again, a blessing in disguise for them. But this is not the purpose of our meeting now. The purpose is to look at how can firms treat the crisis in many ways and incorporate innovation inside. If you look at the Chinese word for crisis, it consists of two different, maybe even almost polar opposite terms. It is danger, but also opportunity. Now, those who know the Chinese culture understand that this is part of their yin and yang. There is something black and something white. It could be evil, it could be good, it could be hot or cold. And they are mixed together in order to generate a new meaning. In our case, maybe it looks like this, like Corona is danger, but there is also some beauty inside crisis, and this is what I want to tell you now. Let's look at the previous serious pandemic. In the benefit of hindsight, that was kid stuff. But still, the world was terrified. Also, it started in the East, and it shut down the economy in China and in Korea in the Far East because it didn't really spread in the West. Then somehow we got unprepared with the Corona. They were more prepared for these cases. But if you look at the numbers, really kid stuff comparing to the Corona. It was more deadly, but much less infective than the COVID-19. But the result of this was that the Chinese economy relied very strongly on the e-commerce and the online, and it pushed China to be much more advanced than us during those years. Just one example, a company that I'm not sure you're familiar with, it's a very small company. They had a sort of B2B. They connected US companies to mainly Chinese, but companies in the Far East. They had only 400 employees, as I said, very small. And because of the SARS, they had to send them home. So no one was there, and they didn't have any solution for that, but they didn't want to shut down the company. They didn't want to send everyone to Khalat, as we're doing here. So they decided to build something similar to what eBay has. And they created a B2C, a B2 consumers. And I don't know if you know this company, its name is Alibaba. This is how Alibaba started. It's a group in Alibaba, but this is the most profitable group in Alibaba. And this is not just a unique case. It happened all over China. JD.com, for example, it's an interesting case. They had in 2003, they had to close 11 out of 12 shops. They had electronic stores chain, and they had to shut down 11 out of the 12. And in 2004, they realized that they have no choice but to move completely to online. Today, they have almost 200,000 employees, and they have 70 billion revenue in dollars. So again, they can attribute this change and this success to the to the SARS, not the COVID-19. Let's take a step back and look a little bit on a philosophical view of what happens and what is the perspective. We have 3 times usually. Ignore the other, the past perfect, and we have 3 times basically. We have past, we have present, and we have future. Thanks to the second law of thermodynamics, there is a directionality. We move from the past to the present to the future. Now, if you think of this, present doesn't really exist in practice. It doesn't exist. The minute you say something about the present, it's gone. It's similar to a line. Did you ever see a line? No, you never saw a line. You saw something that symbolized line, but there is no line because the width is 0. So is the point. Point has 0 volume. Therefore, it doesn't exist. In a similar sense, a present is a point in time. It doesn't exist. If it doesn't exist, it means we have only past and future. Now you have to decide where you want to live, in the past or in the future. It reminds us the famous saying by Shimon Peres that experts belong to the past. For the future, we need visionaries. So experts are pushed by the past. The visionaries, they are pulled by the future. And when there is a crisis, and as I said before, all the firms, they want to shut down the future because they have to survive, they live in the past, by definition, because there is no presence. They live in the past. But if someone lives in the future and his thoughts, his or her thoughts and vision and all the plans are rooted in the future, then he or she are pulled by the future. And that is the state of mind that we need to adopt when there is a crisis. But of course, we have to understand what is a crisis. The dictionary definition is time of intense difficulty, trouble, danger. I decided to change a little bit the definition to make it a working definition for us. It's a threat. If it's not a threat, then it's not a crisis. Usually it is unexpected. Because it is unexpected, again, there should be no crisis. You should be prepared for this. And it is a big threat on the survival, either on us as individuals or as organizations. Now, that is my interpretation. I didn't take it from any dictionary, and you can develop your own interpretation of what is crisis. But you have to keep in mind that crisis can be a result of something external or internal. Maybe we made a terrible mistake in our management, and therefore now there is a crisis. So it's an internal crisis. Now, crisis can be global, and then it introduces different challenges than a local crisis. Usually, the crises that our fault are local. We don't generate global crises to the universe. An example for a crisis that is really serious for some companies is the Amazon. All these are victims of Amazon. The retail company are under a serious threat. Amazon is a crisis for them. We don't have to accept only pandemics as crisis. I remember, I think it was 3 years ago, Macy's, when I give this systematic creativity course at Columbia, then I give them a challenge, and the challenge is working on a real situation, real product, real company, real people, real everything. And Macy's came to present as a course challenge their problem, and the definition of the challenge was, how can we fight with Amazon? Seriously, now it's too late. It's already too late. But for some retail chains, they're still fighting against this crisis. And the question is, what do they do? Do they just copy Amazon? Do they just try to survive in the presence of Amazon? Or maybe they want to fight back by innovating and then maybe opening new games. So there are a few types of responses to crisis. The first we already covered. It's a survival mode. We need to survive. We cannot have classes, so let's teach on Zoom. This is survival mode. Expanding using existing capabilities. So maybe we can use our capabilities in order to do something else. So there will be some newness there, but the newness will be only with the capabilities, with the tools, with the technologies that we use. But we can also create something bigger, something that if the crisis didn't come, we wouldn't have this idea. Or maybe turning the crisis to a blessing in disguise, meaning doing something much better than if there wasn't any crisis. I'll give you a few examples. I'm not saying that this is necessarily creative, but just few examples in this specific setup. You had Dan Ariely in this course. I don't know how much you liked it. I'm a big fan of Dan Ariely. He's also a good friend. And I can tell you that usually, you're not your own, you would have to pay between $50,000 to $100,000 for this kind of talk. Now, it's not necessarily because the talk is full of examples. He was just talking, but because this is Dan Ariely and his thoughts and his original thoughts. Now, on Zoom, you can bring people. In fact, I'm trying for years to bring Shaquille O'Neal to my class in Columbia, and it's impossible. Dr. Shaquille O'Neal, should I say. He's a doctor in education. He's an amazing speaker for a specific class that I'm giving there, yet it's impossible to bring him. But now, with the new situation on Zoom, maybe I will be able to bring Shaquille O'Neal to your class. Now, that would be expanding using just our capabilities. We have Zoom. Now, let's try to bring speakers. Now, maybe we can do something else. Some of you, especially the MBAs, some of you have families. And you work very hard during the week. It's very tough. And then you have to come Thursday and Friday to take classes. It's not easy for you. We know that. Maybe we can use the Zoom now that everyone is used to it, and maybe we can offer you a class after you put the children to bed. So the class would be at 10, maybe even after midnight, who knows, but definitely after bedtime. And then you'll have only one day in the campus. Maybe it's Thursday, maybe it's Friday. I didn't explore the details here too much, but you know what? Maybe for some people, coming to campus is so difficult that they would prefer half of the program, maybe more of the program, on Zoom, using also a lot of Dan Ariely's and Shaquille O'Neal during these classes, and then it can become something more serious. When I presented this idea first to Niron, this was his reaction. But you know what? Tell me in the chat if you think that this idea can help you. I mean, if you would like to have one course, maybe two courses on Zoom, which is a disadvantage maybe, but the advantage would be the timing and maybe the collections of speaker. Niron, you have your marketing research that you wanted. Look at Niron at his faces, face change, right? Change his face. Okay, let's look at this typology of the responses to the crisis on the famous Booz Allen map. In this map, you have the vertical axis is the newness to the company, and the horizontal axis is the newness to the market. And as typically in management and in marketing, we have a 2 by 2, those squares. We can have low newness both to the market and to the firms. And this would be responses like survival or new ideas. I will show you some of them, new ideas, but the same context, meaning that the company doesn't change much. Now, what we could do is to build on our capabilities, but expand them. So the newness to the company will be high, but the newness to the market will be low. I'll show you examples, but basically I'm going to offer a service or manufacture something that I didn't think of doing, but the market needs it, like ventilators, for example. I could do what I call the sweet spot revolution. High newness to the market, low newness to me. Why this is so important? Because if it is low newness to me, then it means that I don't need to invest too much. I have the know-how, I have the knowledge, I have the capabilities. And of course, I can have the new to the world, what they call, but this is definitely not recommended in times of crisis, because if it is new to the world, if it is new to me, new to the market, then I'll need to invest a lot, either money or other resources, and maybe this is not the right time. So the type C, the sweet spot of revolution, this is exactly what happened to Alibaba. And the question is whether this is just a unique case or maybe we can do the same. But the beauty is the following. There is a term that is called closed world. Guys, it's your turn to take over the chat. The closed world means that there is a closure where I try to create a novel combination of existing components. When I do that, this is actually the real creativity. And the beauty of this is that this is the product of our mind alone. It's not connected to anything else. It's just our mind creating the new combinations. Now, there's another principle of functions follow forms, more commonly known as it's not a bug, it's a feature, meaning that I'm trying to assign new functions that didn't exist before to the new combinations that I created, but based on our existing world. Now, this means that I'm using the past, which is the closed world, in order to live in the future, which is the functions follow forms. I know it sounded a little abstract, but those of you who are more interested, either come to the course or I can send you more material so you can understand. I'm kidding, you don't have to come to the course. There's plenty of material to read about it. Let's look at few responses and few actions of firms. Airbnb. What they are doing today, I don't want to say ridiculous, I don't want to insult them, but look what they're trying to do. They're trying to waive their fee or highlighting longer stays, because if you stay longer, then maybe being in quarantine is not that bad, or maybe they don't have any space to maneuver. But this is almost, forgive me, Airbnb, it's just for the purpose of the lecture, this is almost pathetic what they're doing. Forgetting completely, or maybe not forgetting, maybe we forget, that Airbnb had their own blessing in disguise from a crisis, because when the recession of 2008 came, people were looking for lower cost accommodations, and people were looking for making some extra money because of the resources. That was the perfect timing for Airbnb. They didn't come with the idea during this recession, but there is a clear agreement that recession boosted up the demand for Airbnb, and they built themselves based on this recession. Now, maybe they cannot take advantage of the COVID-19 now, but if they can, they'll surely miss it. I don't know if you recognize Nati. Nati is the wife of Moses. Some of you took his courses, maybe. He's also TAing my creativity. So he sent me this picture. As you can see, she has a picture of her face because her face are covered by the mask. But basically, this idea spread out, and many doctors are using this. So it provides the patient some more closer feeling because they use these masks. Now, this idea can stay even after Corona leaves. So why not? Why not carrying these photos when patients cannot see your faces? By the way, there is the IDC point here. It's a collaboration between Tel Aviv universities and IDC students university. They together came up with this idea, and as I understood it, got very nice. But not only IDC in Tel Aviv, Apple is doing something similar. Apple decided to manufacture face shields. Now they have the capability to manufacture, so this is the type B, right? They're expanding a little bit the capabilities. So it's new to Apple. Apple never manufactured masks or face shields. Now they can. But you can also increase the innovation, like using hand-free doors openers. And again, that might be relevant to hospitals even after the COVID, because infections and pandemics, maybe not pandemics, but a lot of diseases stay in the hospital. And maybe if we can open the doors without hands, it will be more safe for patients, for us, for the visitors, for the doctors. Few more examples, even Cadbury, that they manufacture cookies and chocolate, they also use the 3D printers in order to manufacture masks and face shields. So companies, and Dyson is another example. So companies are using the capabilities. They look around what is needed now, but they are not looking what will be needed in the future, most of them. Some of them do. Again, for some companies, it's a blessing in disguise, like Tent Craft, they manufacture tents. And before the crisis, they had a $15 million average revenue, which is not bad. They manufacture tents, but now they saw that there is a need for special tents for health departments in order to run all the tests for the patient. So they started to manufacture these type of, and they already made $1 million in orders from the healthcare, but that is already old. Maybe it is increased. But again, we need to think not only on the present, because it doesn't exist, we need to think on the future. This is how some designers think that airlines should redesign the seats. The point I'm making is that they are not doing this just for the COVID. It's going to stay. Now, if you think of this, for years we know that people who fly, they catch the flu. Now, because we are all young, well, at least you are young, so we don't care much because the flu is not dangerous. But for elders, people who still fly, but they are above 80, flu is very dangerous. In fact, flu kills more people than corona. So they don't want to get infected in flu in the airplanes, and this is the right design for them. And that should stay after the corona. Again, what I'm trying to say is that thanks to this crisis, airlines and aircrafts will be safer because of these designs. Don't take it to the extreme. This is a new restaurant design in Amsterdam. And they designed these cubicles so people can dine together inside these glass cubes. I don't think I would like to eat there, but it's safer now. So I'm not sure that this will stay. However, as you can see, many restaurants who have parking lots, they decided to use them as drive-in. Most of you are pretty young, right? I don't know if you use this experience of driving. By the way, this is attribute dependency. For those of you who took the course, then the direction of the seats is different based on the distance from the center. This is a template of change. It could be also the division. Using the parking places in order to use the car, so people can come in cars and have dinner and see a movie. That was a pretty common concept in the past. This is safe in terms of Corona, but the reaction is very interesting. First, this is a task unification. It's another template. Again, I'm mentioning this mainly for the people who took the course. By using something that already you have in order to fulfill a new function, then you can generate some innovations. What they were surprised is that this becomes a fad in the US. And they don't know yet, but maybe it will stay also after the Corona. Because if you think of this, this is a different kind of experience. You're going to see the movie, you're going to the theater, but you also have a dinner and you have your own special car as a cubicle, so you have full privacy in order to do that. Back to the philosophy. What happens is the following. We have plans. We have startup, we have our entrepreneur stage, and we have a plan. Now, we know that our plans usually are wrong because they are based on some assumptions, and assumptions change, and also the situation changes, the variable changes, the resources change, everything changes. But the problem is that we cannot recalculate our track every day. We cannot decide every day that we want to do something new. So we have to stick to our plans, and we try to optimize we're keeping an eye on opportunities, but we have to be true and loyal to our plans. And then comes a crisis. When there is a crisis, everything changes. It's not the same anymore. All the components, all the relationship changed. Now, what happens is that if there is a crisis, you have to recalculate. The point is that you have to recalculate to a situation that should be much better than the original plan. It cannot work always, of course, but if you miss such an opportunity, you miss the crisis opportunity. So the crisis creates a new situation, new state of matters, and due to this crisis, you can make a shift to a better plan only because you didn't do it before because there wasn't a crisis. So I know psychologically it's difficult, but those who embrace the crisis in order to generate something that by definition they want it to be better than the past, they come up with those ideas that eventually are much better. If you think that this philosophy is just nice for paper or it's abstract, so let's rethink about it. Let's look at the past. I'm going to show you a set of companies that made shift and pivots, not necessarily due to a crisis, but they had a problem and they made shift and pivots all the time, and they were pretty serious. For example, Samsung. Samsung started as exporter of noodles and dried fish. That was Samsung. And then in the 50s, they had a vision. They went into insurance and textiles. Only to the late of the 60s, they started to be electronical. That's major shifts that they made. Now, it wasn't part of crisis, of course, but it shows us an example that firms are capable of making shifts and pivots. YouTube started as a dating site, and they had problems because people, you can call it already a crisis or failure, but people didn't upload their dating videos. So they changed to what we know today as YouTube. So they have to say, thank God that people didn't upload videos, because if they uploaded a little more videos, they would stay a dating site and not YouTube. Same goes for Twitter. Twitter was audio, and audio had a small function that is called Twitter without the vowel, so I don't know how to say it, Twitter, something like this, it is without the I and the E. And the problem was that they were supposed to be a podcasting network, but not a microblogging. And the problem was that the micro-messaging it worked, but the podcast didn't work. And especially because of the Apple iTunes that made them very vulnerable. So they decided to move to a social media with the microblogging. Twitter is huge today. They have to say thanks for Apple. We have other examples, like Groupon that was supposed to be fundraising. It didn't work out, so they recalculated. Shopify that started, it's a shopping mall, electronic, but they started a snowboard company. Not as a mall, not as an electronic mall. Pandora was supposed to be a recommendation, and they started as a recommendation system to people who go to listen to music to the stores. And it was a crisis. The fact that the stores, the CDs, they just were vanishing to them. Then they decided to respond to this crisis by becoming a radio, an internet radio. And Pandora is big today. So that's, again, thanks to a crisis. What happened today? By the way, your assignment is to look at to Google. I think it is fascinating, and look for all the cases of companies that are doing something else, classify them based on the different options, different ideas, and maybe even try to evaluate maybe they will stay after the corona or not, and whether it's a good opportunity that they took advantage or not. That is your analysis or your view about the case, one case, that's all. So if you look at the hospitals, you see that they need a lot of equipment, like ventilators, like masks, and a lot of companies just responded to the call. They generated Ford, 3M, Dyson, as I said before. All the information is here. A nice example is the low-cost alternatives for ventilators. They are not as useful or as healthy as the regular one. And therefore, we don't count them today, but we don't count them only because we didn't reach the threshold that people didn't have ventilator. If we passed this threshold, we had to use with these small, very low cost ventilators that they can manufacture them as hundreds in a day. However, there are arguments that in poor countries, in the East, in Africa, these ventilators, these low-cost ventilators can save life, and those companies intend to market them to those places in the world. There are also few companies in Israel that are doing the same, including one by LB. I want to show you another crisis-related change that completely changed the world. And this is the cloud. In 2006, Amazon launches their cloud computation, and make no mistake, this revolutionized the startup industry, because after that, startups didn't have to purchase expensive computers and computer space and CPU, because they could rent it from Amazon, making the fixed cost variable cost, meaning that anyone who wanted to become a startup could do it. In fact, I'm starting now something in the startup, and I'm just buying from Amazon. It's very cheap. I don't need a computer. We don't need these resources. So it allowed many people who maybe would not be able to start their own startup to start with very low investment. Do you know how they came up with this idea? Well, in Christmas, there was a huge demand on Amazon, and each time Christmas came, all the computers crashed because of the demand. In fact, they even called it Amazoff instead of Amazon in Christmas. And then they came up with the idea that, okay, they have to buy a lot of computer space. So they bought a lot of computers, and they had computers, and they were sitting ducks all over the year because they didn't have anything to do with them. And someone, did I mention it's not a bug, it's a feature? It's the same thing. This is the function for the forms, or this is the task unification with the drive-in. They decided to offer this CPU during the year, except from Christmas. It started like this, and then they realized that actually Christmas is a few days, so they bought a few more computers and they made a lot of revenue. Amazon became cloud services. It's not the first time Amazon, it's not the only time that Amazon is doing the same. Amazon have this, you have here the details. The Mechanical Turks. I don't know if you know the Mechanical Turks. Mechanical Turks is a panel, many individuals in the world, in a very low cost. They can answer your questionnaires, your surveys. So scientists, social scientists, they use it a lot as respondents in experiments, but also companies are doing a lot of surveys. So imagine millions of people waiting for you to post a question or a task or a survey, and they immediately respond. So you have the entire survey completed in a few hours. That's heaven. That didn't exist before Amazon introduced the Amazon Mechanical Turks. By the way, why it is called Mechanical Turks? because there was a Turk engineer that developed this machine that you see here in the picture, and this machine could play chess. And he used to travel over Europe, challenging many chess masters and beating them. And that was in the time that computer didn't exist. It was a mechanical machine that could play chess, and you can hear all the wheels turning and the weights and everything. And it was a big shock in Europe, big surprise in Europe, until someone discovered that inside this machine, there was a small Turk that he was a good chess master, and he was just playing chess, fooling everyone. And the mechanical Turks became a term when you want to do computer job with a person, with human person, this is a mechanical Turk. So how it is related to what I said before, they had an app in Amazon when you could go to the store, take a picture of a product that you want to buy, press it, and get a quote from Amazon, how much it costs in Amazon, and maybe order it in Amazon. So you would go to the store. Now you don't need to do it. But at the time when Amazon started, you go to the store, you take a picture, and then you can order from Amazon if it's cheaper by Amazon. The problem was that at that time, even today, the AI is not sufficiently effective, and therefore they cannot come up with the right product based on one picture. Take into account also light changes, and then it wasn't effective. So what they did, they hired a lot of mechanical Turks, not from Turkey. Mechanical Turks, meaning people who are doing computer job. And they would be ready. Once there is a click on a link, they would search manually in Amazon for the right product based on what they saw. After this converges by, let's say, 3-4 people, they send the link to the person, and it was very fast. The problem again, what would you do with that? In fact, there was also a mini crisis there. They decided that they cannot do it because this is a complete challenge to the stores. And at that time, today, they are not afraid of anything. But at that time, they were afraid from the response from the stores. So decided to keep it very low, below the radar. But the point was that they used the mechanical Turks to do what I described before as an online survey panel. Another example is Nutella, that at a certain time, the chocolate prices went too high, so they decided to replace it with nuts. I know that in Israel, how do we call it? Chocolate, shachar. We prefer shachar over Nutella. I mean, the kids prefer, I don't know why, but they prefer shachar over Nutella. But Nutella was very successful, again, thanks to the crisis, that the chocolate prices were too high. What will be here in Israel? Or sorry, not the app is from Israel, but what will be next? I think that the big opportunity that comes from the corona is turning the medical treatment and care more digital. Just an example for the possibilities. On average, 18% of the population suffer at a certain stage from some depression episode. It doesn't mean that they stay with this. Maybe they need treatment, not necessarily by drugs, but 18% is a big number. Today, it is possible to take the cell phone, take a picture of your face. You cannot see my cell phone, like this, and create a diagnostic, whether you are in depression. So there are different apps, including one developed in Israel, that you can diagnose people that are about to dive into this depression episode. This can send automatic alert to your psychiatrist, or also to a designated friend that can come over. Sometimes if he or she take you out for a beer or something, or to the movie, then it can help you to either not dive or just have a better episode, as much as it can be better in kind of the depression. So the medical selfie can create a lot of new exciting avenues. I'm involved in some development, how to use the faces in order to generate some information. Together with Yanat, we try to see whether faces related to specific brand, so we can use the face in order to know which brand you are loyal to. But also I'm collaborating with doctors, which are trying to measure the pain, how much pain do you have based on the face, and that could be done remotely. So I believe that all those ideas of getting remote diagnostics and even even treatment, that is based on what happened today with the corona. I'm trying to avoid the question whether we had to have this episode here at homes with the quarantine and lockdown and everything or not. It's a different lecture, different topic. But given the fact that we had this crisis and given the fact we had to shut down most of our economy, I argue that there is an opportunity here. And in order to convince you that this is not only my view, I invited a dear alumni, Doron. I hope you're still there. Doron, are you there? If not, I'm going to talk on something different.
Here, he's here.
There we go. I got it.
Doron, unmute yourself and tell me that you are here.
I'm with you. I'm 100% with you.
Okay, great. So Doron, I met him when he was our student. He also was included in the course that we're giving together with Columbia University called Meet the Startup Nation. And you know what, Doron? Show is yours now. Tell them something.
First of all, I wish I saw this specific class prior, but yes, and I also highly recommend Yanko's SIT class for anyone who hasn't done it. But I'll tell you a little bit about how it relates to me and what we did. First of all, I'm a managing partner in a company called Excellent Israel. And for those of you who speak Hebrew, we're one of Israel's. We're currently Israel's biggest kosher kravi company, meaning we train high schoolers for their draft to the elite units of the IDF. We have over 4,000 alumni, 450 current training students, more or less. And we build warriors. That's our DNA. Warriors has nothing to do with the actual service. Warriors in the sense of the mentality, the ability to face any crisis and deal with it. And we've been talking about this far before this. Yanko talked to me. He asked me to discuss a little bit about how we dealt and what we did when the corona hit, because all of a sudden when we understood the corona was coming, it became an absolutely volatile atmosphere. Where our usual product is 3 times a week we meet with our groups, and a bi-monthly meeting with the team that will have some kind of camp or get together, lectures or whatnot. All of a sudden we can't meet, we can't touch, we can't even tell the kids, okay, go for a run. Like it became a huge mess. Simultaneously, we said, okay, let's see what our competitors are doing, and we see they're freezing accounts, some are shutting down, they're losing companies, they're giving discounts. And at that point, we saw a major opportunity. And first of all, I'll bring a step back. This is a very competitive market in Israel. It's a red ocean that there are many companies that are all fighting over these same youth, these same high schoolers. And we're all facing the same challenge, that the two maybe most motivating factors determining whether these high schoolers will sign up is convenience. How close is it? How does it fit in with their schedule after school? And laziness, because the teenagers are a bit more lazy. They don't want to, all right, when can I do it? No, they're like looking for the reasons to get away and to avoid it. And what we understand is that once we'll be able to overcome both of those, or whichever company will be able to find a solution that answers both of those, we'll actually discover a new blue ocean that'll get to all of these, God knows how many teenagers in Israel, but even more so, potentially creating a new system that one day, hopefully, we see going throughout the world. And our vision is becoming the new Krav Maga of the world. Just like you have a Krav Maga in Australia, Sydney, and Los Angeles, Amsterdam, you just choose where. So and for a long time, we've been discussing, what about an online product? What about an online product? What about an online product? And we've been doing market research and thinking and really challenging this notion. And for about half a year, we started thinking about it, working on it. And then all of a sudden the corona came, and two things happened. The first is that we understood that, yes, we are in survival mode. And I say this I define myself as a forward thinking, as a somewhat visionary. Yeah, and you must have cash flow in order to exist. So survival mode is a must. You can't just be in the future. And that's why my partners are always pulling me back. But the second time we said, maybe we have an opportunity, rather than doing market research and asking theoretical questions of, would you like this product? Would you not like this product? So all of a sudden come and say, you know what, this is the product and let's see what happens. And the corona actually kind of forced us into this position. So we decided to jump at it head on. So the first thing we did is we decided we're doing no refunds. We're not freezing any accounts. We're not canceling. We're not giving any discounts. We're keeping the same price, but we're tripling down on our value. So if prior to the corona, we were giving 3 weekly sessions. Then we moved from 3 weekly sessions and 1 bi-monthly meeting to 7 practices a week, meaning every single day they get a filmed practice, has all the explanations for every single exercise they can do. An online mental training course program, and I'll tell you a second how we prepared all these materials. An online mental training course program, 12 classes of how to develop mental toughness to prepare yourself for your acceptance to the units of the IDF and so forth. 1, 2, and we added, in addition to that, 4 Zoom sessions a week, where one would be a physical consultation. We'd say, do you have questions? We have a physiotherapist. We have a guy that you can ask these questions, and we'd have a panel of maybe 100 kids come, and they'd be asking their own specific questions to get feedback like live. Second was another mental class to give them that mental strength that they needed in order to help them also prepare, learn how to study, learn how to maintain that winner attitude during these times. The third was a meeting with their instructor. And the fourth, which again, these are the things that just came thanks to the corona, was once a week, we'd bring a fighter from a different unit of the IDF. Once it'd be a pilot, from Shashteisha, Matkal, the Navy, you know, you can pretty much choose any unit you want. Every single week, we'd bring a different fighter to have a panel, and he would just answer questions. And all of a sudden, these kids are getting, you know, parallel to what Yanko was talking about before, that you have Shaq, for them, this is their Shaq, Kobe, and LeBron all in one. And the chance to get to answer all those questions. And so when we understood that the corona was coming, okay, we just cracked down and said, okay, this is what a potential online product might look like. Let's see if it works. And the biggest challenge was, again, we understood that in about 5-6 days or undisclosed time, the whole country is going to be shut down. And we literally locked ourselves in our office for about 4 or 5 days. And we filmed, if I'm not mistaken, over 200 videos, the online mental training program, physical training programs. We contacted all of our alumni to make sure we had everything. And we have this whole product all of a sudden ready. And as a result of all of that, there's a few major results. And the first is that we managed to hold more than 90% of our clients, which is, we did not expect it. It was unbelievable. Not only did we manage to hold more than 90% of our clients, we managed to bring new clients. And I know
one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the biggest part is that we got, it came as a slap in the face at first, but we got a huge opportunity to really understand how this product can work, what will work, and what won't work. And then now all of a sudden, you know, everything is almost feeling back to normal. So first of all, we're back at full speed. We're doing our 3 sessions a week, but in addition to that, we're making sure to bring back those Zoom sessions so we can get to them. So for example, next week, our students have 3 physical training sessions with their instructor. If they can't arrive, then they have a bank of videos where they can come and they can see previous practices, but they're also going to have a live Zoom session to learn how they can organize their schedule to deal with bagluyot, how to effective setting sessions and more. So that's one, for example. Another one is, right. Yeah, I think the second and most important thing is, again, we just have a far greater understanding of what our potential product is, because as I said before, as a visionary or however, you know, people decide to define me, when I look forward, I don't see the future of people still doing it in this way. I think the market has become more ripe and more prepared and more accepting of, yeah, it's okay to do it from afar, also at a premium of price. We're asking a higher price than most companies, and people are still excited because they understand that the value is unmatchable. And then all of that brought us back to the final thing, which the first thing that we said once we got back to this whole current situation that we're all in, it was a quote said by Winston Churchill. He said, after World War II, he said, "This isn't the beginning of the end, this is the end of the beginning." And this is the mindset that we're maintaining, that no one knows what's going to happen. A second wave might come. And first of all, if the second wave comes, we have over 200 videos and we're prepared for anything. Literally, at the level of, if they're locked in a room and they can't go anywhere, we still have an unbelievable product that's going to deliver amazing value. But more so, we have a huge, huge understanding, which has given us a huge benefit over our competition for that day that when we'll want to take this product and make it, you know, nationally acceptable. And more importantly, again, in our vision, one day to go global with this thing, A, that an online product is a very viable product. B, what values do work and what doesn't work. And this is just what it is. And at the end, this just proves that as a company, the importance of agility, the importance of being able to understand that with every crisis comes an opportunity. And it's literally catapulted us into a new phase where we're not only going to feel that we're more confidently going into our red ocean, but we feel that we're the only ones now exploring a blue ocean. I think that's in a nutshell, Yanko, if there's any questions.
Yeah, I think it's a good time to take questions, either if you have questions to Doron specifically or to me. But actually, I want to ask Doron one quick question, quick answer, and then turn to your questions, everyone. Next year, hopefully, there will be no corona, no other pandemic for a few years. Your product will be much better, I understand, than the current one, right?
Absolutely.
Your service.
Absolutely. There's no question. Again, it's just expanded, you know. Whereas once it was, okay, I have an instructor and this is my main communications. I have an instructor and now I have a database. It's literally, here's the instructor. And by the way, here you can watch a video when we talk with Pilot. Here you can watch a video when we talk with this and we talked with that. And here's how you can learn. And all of a sudden, it's just exploded with unbelievable value. And it's so exciting to see two things, actually. First of all, it's super exciting to see that the value the students are getting out of it because we really believe in the value. And second of all, we also understand that a major part of our clients are the parents. The parents are the ones paying. So when the parents here, and we've got many, many calls like this, which was so beautiful. The parents here, my son is at home, and instead of waking up at 10 a.m. or 2 p.m. or whatever hours, for some reason he's getting up at 7 a.m. He's doing a workout, and he's actually studying because of the stuff you're teaching them. So again, the value here is unbelievable, and I don't think we would have gotten it without the corona.
Okay, great, thanks. So anyone questions to me or to Doron or to Niron? Feel free to unmute and burst in.
No, they are shy today.
Yeah, I saw. I joined in the middle of Barak, and I didn't see any questions then. So do you want me to talk? Do you want to go and make your chunt or whatever? What do you prefer?
I have a question.
Yep.
I'm currently taking the course of systematic creativity too. And so right now I'm having all the concepts in my mind and I don't know what to ask exactly. But I wanted to know, how do you see the world going regarding the telemedicine? And what we need to develop more, like, I don't know how to explain it, like, in how long you think that it's gonna start to go worldwide, the telemedicine, because there are some countries that right now they can't.
Okay, so I'm going to give you my own opinion. It's not the truth, right? We need to see in the future what will happen. But usually successful revolution is not based on new developments. It is based on current developments. Same happens to Alibaba and the Chinese market. The infrastructure for the internet and the e-commerce and everything existed already. Just someone had to make a shift and look at this option and take advantage of this. And I think this is exactly what is supposed to be happen right now. I'll give you just one example. To this, there is another Israeli company located in Boston, but it is an Israeli company. They developed what they call face-to-gene. They can identify, it's a fascinating story how, but anyone who is interested later, they are able to take a snapshot picture of the face of a baby and create diagnostics whether this baby has a rare genetic disorder. Now, rare genetic disorder is defined by having 1,000 babies in the world with this genetic disorder. And this is why doctors don't understand, but there are so many disorders. So actually there are millions of babies like this, but each 1,000 babies have different disorders. So they are able, based on the face alone, no blood test, nothing, to create diagnostic. Why this is so important? Because doctors don't have accessibility to such huge information, and they offer this service. Now, there are a lot of issues right now, how they're going to make money, what is exactly the business model, but they're able to do it. And that can be from the distance because they sit in Boston, but God forbid, if everyone needs this service, they can just take a picture of the baby and sell it with or without the doctor as a mediator. I presented before the selfie in order to diagnose depression that is about to come. They now analyze the voice. You can speak and record the voice. So I think the field of diagnostics is going to burst in the next few years from remotely. It saves a lot of money to the organizations, to the health organizations. In fact, there are attempts even to examine whether you have corona or not based on the voice. As I understand it, didn't work very well, but maybe it will in the future. I think also all those devices of ECG and all those tests from remotely, the infrastructure exists, the technology exists already. So it's just a matter of habit. By the way, you have to understand that revolutions are slowed down not because of technology. Technology is fast. Revolutions are slow because of what we call resistance to innovation, and there are different mechanisms why. And most of them are not because people are stupid. Most of them are very reasonable resistance mechanisms. But once there is a crisis, again, we recalculate and we think to ourselves that, in fact, since we are used now to do remotely things, then we can take advantage and use it also for other fields. So, in short, I believe that for remote diagnostics, that would be the next evolution.
Okay.
Guys, any more questions? All right, so Yanko, thank you very much. With you, we started high, but now we get even higher, I think. So thank you very much for a great lecture. It was really inspiring. And thank you, everyone. We'll be seeing you in 2 weeks' time.
Thank you, Doron, for joining us.
Absolutely.
Thank you as well, Jacob. It was fascinating.
Thank you, and stay healthy, and Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
2 weeks.
Thank you.